Hello, and welcome to another Keeping It Real with Dr. Anita podcast. I am your host, Dr. Anita Polite Wilson, and today I'm kicking off this month's theme of laboring for justice. I chose this theme in recognition of Labor Day, which the nation will celebrate on Monday, September 7th, just 2 days from now. Despite the social distancing restrictions on crowd sizes, I have no doubt that being the creative and innovative people that Americans are, we will find a way to still have a cookout, gather in small circles within safe zones 6 feet apart on the grass at the park, and reflect on the meaning of this holiday other than just being an opportunity to gather over food. At least that's my hope. It will be a laborious task this Labor Day to be together. But finding a way to be together and close out the summer with the last 3 day weekend is not the point of Labor Day. When I Googled the significance of Labor Day, always celebrated on the first Monday in September, I found that it is a creation of the labor movement. Labor Day is designated to reflect on the social and economic achievements of American workers. This year in particular, I think of the first responders in our health and wellness communities, at hospitals and long-term care facilities, along with mental wellness advocates. This holiday, I hope we especially thank them for their service. Peter J. McGuire, a carpenter and labor union leader, was the person who came up with the idea for Labor Day. He thought American workers should be honored with their own day. He proposed his idea to New York's Central Labor Union in early 1882, and they agreed that the holiday was indeed a good idea. Specifically, the 8-hour day movement advocated 8 hours for work, 8 hours for recreation, and 8 hours for rest. And it seems as though the pandemic has, in a sense, forced us to remember the importance of rest and recreation or recreation. Let's pause here for just a minute. Do you remember just how busy, packed, and frantic your life was up until about 6 months ago? Most everyone I know was overscheduled and undernourished when you consider that our days barely left time to hit the drive-thru for a quick bite to eat with a choice of less than the most healthy options. Now, not only do we have more time due to the recommendation to simply stay at home as a primary way to help prevent the spread of the virus, if and when you can, but that time has afforded us more time for recreation, even if that means sitting down and just thinking or walking or reading. And when we make the time to think or walk or read, we honor the commandment to rest. And in the precious space between rest and recreation, recreation begins to happen. If you stop and think about it, we have recreated the battle rhythm of our lives in terms of work-life integration. Many of us who are blessed to still have a job are working from home. The way we have prioritized time with loved ones, what that time now looks like, sounds like, feels like, and acts like, has changed for the better in many families. Less and less it looks like dinner in the car. More and more it looks like dinner around the table. Less and less it sounds like parents and kids rushing about to the next team practice. More and more it sounds like parents and kids having real conversations that matter. Less and less it feels like the pressure to measure up. More and more it feels like the possibilities to stay connected. Less and less it acts like a fleet of ships navigating this stormy season of life. More and more it looks like hearts and minds resting in the harbor of family love. Now, that's not to paint an unrealistically rosy picture of the disruption of life as we once knew it. To be sure, we are trying to figure out a new normal, or to be more precise, the next normal, because what we are finally able to decide is normal today may not be normal tomorrow. That is the world we currently live in, and it looks like we'll be here for a little while. But when I go back to the purpose behind Labor Day, which is to reflect on the social and economic achievements of American workers, I think of the ever-widening disparity between the haves and the have-nots. No doubt you're aware of the statistics about who holds the wealth in this country. The wealthiest 1% of Americans possess 40% of the nation's wealth. The bottom 80% own 7%. And then there are those in the middle who are struggling to survive, especially now. For those of us who are not wealthy, variances in pay are reflected by many factors. Whether you're white or not, whether you're a man or not, whether you're highly educated or never finished high school, whether you're a white collar worker or a blue collar worker, whether you're a seasoned professional or an emerging professional. And that's just to name a few factors around equal pay for equal work. It has been said that work in any form is noble, and I can think of no more noble work than laboring for justice, which is the theme of each Dr. Anita podcast this month. We work hard. For some of us, we've been blessed to pursue our passion as our profession. For all of us as American workers, we have a responsibility to ensure the rights of our co-workers to be respected, to be treated fairly, to have equal opportunity, and to enjoy a sense of belonging wherever we work. As a diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging facilitator, my work has never had more meaning for me and for those I serve, from the front lines of an organization to the president and CEO. It's both a labor of love and a labor of justice that I'm uniquely qualified for on several levels. But laboring for justice doesn't mean just being in the streets. But you do need to be clear about what laboring for justice looks like for you. And once you get clear about that, be clear about your purpose. In our first Insanity Check podcast of the month, we're going to look at the activities still taking place in Portland and think out loud about whether the death of George Floyd and the ensuing cries for racial justice seem to have been lost by the protesters. In our second Insanity Check podcast of the month, my co-contributors and I will define what our inner voice is and says to us and means to us, and how we respond to that voice inside of us that needs to be heard, whether it's in the form of a whisper of encouragement or whether it's in the streets with a bullhorn. Finally, we'll wrap up this month's theme of laboring for justice when I have the pleasure of interviewing Ms. Lori Condinas about her mentor, civil rights icon John Lewis, and her work as an activist on my Real Conversations podcast. Even producing these podcasts is a labor that is totally driven by love and my belief that every voice matters. And my goal is to be a voice that matters to you. Until next time, this is Dr. Anita reminding you to stay blessed and keep it real.